The most well-known conflict between science and religion was the controversy between the Roman Catholic Church and Galileo in 1633. Popularizers of science have a fondness for the incident because Galileo was so clearly in the right. The Vatican, in fact, issued a mea culpa, Latin for my bad, to the astronomer 350 years later. While Galileo was quick to recant his views and only suffered a book ban and house arrest, his fellow Italian, Giordano Bruno, was not so lucky. He had been burned at the stake for heresy some 30 years earlier. And what were the transgressions of these two men? A belief in a heliocentric solar system. Or more seriously, a belief in a system that displaced humanity from the center of things on which everything else revolved. In terms of the displacement, this was only the beginning. We discovered solar systems other than our own, then more galaxies with even more solar systems. If nature wished us to feel small in time and space, proximity to an oak tree would have sufficed. But the terrifying immensity of the universe was really rubbing it in. In The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, author Douglas Adams imagined a torture device called the Total Perspective Vortex. Here, an individual is placed inside the device and shown their complete insignificance in the universe. Inevitably, the perspective proved fatal. The only survivor was a creature by the name of Zaphoid Beeblebrox, whose belief that he was the center of the universe was so unshakable that even the total perspective vortex failed to convince him otherwise. Even on our own planet, we could not claim a central role anymore. Darwinian evolution made it clear that we were just another animal. Again, religious indignation ensued. In fact, science started to define itself in contrast to the wishful thinking of theists and believers. Any displacement that emphasized humanity's insignificance was just science keeping it real. It became a race to the bottom for who could propose the darkest, most depressing theory about humanity's place in the large scheme of things. And the winner? Richard Dawkins' The Selfish Gene. The book proposes that our bodies are merely the vessels for what is the real greatest show on Earth, the propagation of our conniving, diabolical DNA. A great democratization of the universe occurred with the discovery of the Big Bang, though. Cosmologists now stated that there was no one center to the universe. Everything inside this expanding bubble of time and space could now claim with equal validity to be the center of the expansion. And with the postulates of relativity having no preferred frame of reference, the Earth could reassert its place as the center of the solar system, if we wished to burden ourselves with the unnecessary and more complicated mathematics. But by this point in time, the feeling of our insignificance was so glaring and ingrained, we had given up the claim to be the center of anything. Regarding the stuff we were made of, the displacement continued unabated. New scientific discoveries showed that the familiar stuff of matter, protons, electrons, neutrons, are tiny compared to the overwhelming properties and forces of dark energy and dark matter. What we are made of constitutes only about 4 to 5% of the total mass and energy of the observable universe. But by a weird inversion, the smaller humanity became, the more rarefied it became as well. As biological creatures with consciousness who can understand their environment at a deep level, we are indeed unique. Rather than the crude, common bedrock upon which everything rests, we are more like a remarkable and precious gemstone. We can also take solace in the fact that the absurd fecundity of creation occurs at all scales, not just in the immensity of the stars and galaxies. The particle zoo at the subatomic level, the variety of species of fauna and flora here on Earth, and in the mind itself there is an overabundance, with most of mathematics having no application to the natural world. A creator looking upon its creation may value what is rare over what is common. And while we can reconcile ourselves to our smallness in space, it is the shortness of life that we find troubling. Would a creator value us because we are also ephemeral? If so, we can find comfort that there may be a rationale for the time allotted to us. In the future, we could double our lifespans, and while it would still be tiny compared to the predicted age of the universe, we can imagine having no trouble enduring it. The idea of infinity is harder to acclimate.